COVID-19 lockdown has left us poor. Money from candidates won't make you rich. Do not be desperate. Focus on issues, not money. Often money used in campaigns is dirty money. Do you know its source? Corruption, mafia, drug trafficking, human trafficking, theft from national budget, self-seeking foreigners, selfish businessmen, selfish money lenders. Don't abandon your duty. Elect quality leadership, not big spenders.
Okay, a very good morning to all our online viewers. You are welcome to our fourth virtual talk show, ACFIM Talks. I'm glad to have you, Ivan. You are most welcome. Hope you can hear us.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Is Lillian with us?
I don't think she's yet on.
Oh, okay. I think she'll be joining us shortly. Let's get started. I think Lillian will be joining us. She told me she had the barrier to attend to, so she was a bit not yet confirmed at what point she'll be joining us. But once again, you're very welcome to our online virtual talk show, ACFIM Talks. It's a very good morning. I'm pleased to have you once again. Today in the studio, I expect two people. So far, we have one guest that has joined us, Ivan Bwowe, and a man that needs little introduction. I'm your host, Felix Kafuma, as usual. We've moved this program from Saturday to Friday due to a number of reasons, and this is the first one we are having that is being held on a Friday. But allow me to introduce Ivan Bwowe as we wait for Lillian. He's a lawyer and he's a politician with a rich history. He has served as a youth president from Akera University. I think that was between 2014 and 2015. Yeah. And I remember during your tenure, you were very vocal on issues to do with the increment in tuition fees. Yes, and I still remember during your tenure, Makerere had a span of, or a wave of strikes in that regard. Yeah, so he's an activist in nature and in character. He's also a research fellow. Are you still with the Great Lakes Institute of Strategical Studies?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, he's a research fellow. And I also, if my memory serves me right, you also contested for MP seat for Buyamba constituency in 2016.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So that's interesting. So I think we have the right person for the discussion we are having today. That is quite timely now that we are in the middle of the electoral season. The campaigns are starting next week officially. Nominations were done and dusted this week. They had drama as well, but that's a topic for another day. So, and I want to start it off from there. Ivan, are you contesting?
Yes, I am.
You are contesting?
Yes.
Are you at liberty to share for which position, or that's still under wraps?
Well, it's still under wraps. I am not disclosing or declaring for purely tactical reasons. Yeah, but be rest assured, I am standing.
All right. Just to know that we are having a discussion with a contestant equally. So this should be interesting. Okay, so let's start this off. My understanding is that during campaigns, we are seeing the message, the campaign message change over time, especially now that we are seeing more political candidates structuring their message on issues to do with social service delivery. Some go an extra mile to even directly provide social services, as opposed more to what they can do in regard to what the office they are contesting for requires. For example, if you are an MP, contesting for an MP, instead of articulating issues to do with the representation, issues to do with legislation, you spend more time telling them how you're going to bring roads, how you're going to construct boreholes, how you're going to improve their life, as if it's a direct provision of services. And to some point, you even use the past projects you've implemented as your campaign message. Why are we in this kind of conundrum as a country?
I think as a country, we have we are on a wrong trajectory when it comes to giving leadership in what a leader should do, who is a leader, what is the mandate of the position a leader is vying for, and actually if there is room for them to exercise their mandate. So what we are having today is just, we are dealing with symptoms. We have failed institutions, and when systems fail, then the burden lies on the shoulders of the politicians who canvass for votes from all over. That's why during recently, when we were in panic trying to deal with the pandemic, the government of Uganda had to ask MPs, members of parliament, to surrender their ambulances. And to a politician, visibility is quite important. And instead of the service, what you see on the ambulances are banners. And it goes back to systems. It goes back to leaders that have abrogated their roles and obligations. Because if they were to exercise their mandate, then service delivery would be services would be accessible to the constituents. And if they're accessible to the constituents, then the demands would not be on them to provide those services. So it is a chain, and the chain is broken at the moment. And that's why you see every MP wants to build a borehole, to drill a borehole, wants to buy an ambulance. So we are in a leadership crisis. It's a software leadership crisis that MPs, I am sorry to say, how many of them take their roles as legislators seriously? How many take their roles as appropriators and deciding on the budgetary allocations seriously? How many take representation seriously? How many take oversight seriously? So when there is, as I said, it is a chain, and the chain is broken. And that's why we are in the scenario we are in today, we find ourselves in today. And surprisingly, people have been duped to think that that is the way to go.
Yes, indeed. You talk about you've called it a software leadership crisis.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to interact with some politicians, and then they tell you that they're in a situation that is not their own making. They argue that when they go to interface with the electorate, the things the electorate tell them are things that dictate on how they should interact with the electorate. That the electorate tell them things that are concerning service delivery gaps. And because the electorate set the agenda in this case, So also the politicians go back and structure their agenda or their manifesto to respond to the needs and the demands of the electorate. And in this case, if the electorate are talking about issues to do with service delivery gaps, that will now inform the message or the campaign manifesto. So is it a case where the state is absent in service delivery, or this is just a soft defense of them abrogating their mandate as leaders?
I think one, it's an excuse. Two, it is also a clear indicator of the ignorance even amongst our own leaders, in quotes to say. Because when the constituents direct you to issues of service delivery, then you as a legislator, as an LC5, what you do is you have to do your roles in appropriations, representing your constituents, and oversight. If you fail to do any of that, then you have failed on delivering leadership to the constituents who direct you to service delivery. And I am not blaming the constituents on this note. The constituents know what they want. They choose leaders to find solutions and engage them and represent them. So MPs going ahead and not do as their mandate is, and they instead focus on doing an individual brand of service delivery to the constituents, that's to me petty, and it's a vote of no confidence in self. That's why I said it's a software leadership crisis. Because if you say the constituents set the agenda, then what is the role of a leader when it comes to giving guidance? So I think it's an excuse. And I don't want to listen to such soft and ungrounded excuses, I am sorry to say. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, there is an issue here, to pick it up from what you just submitted, that there are arguments that we have a state that is absent when it comes to provision of social services, but very present when it comes to reminding Ugandans that they are in charge. For example, if you want to know how present the state is, try demonstrating. The state will be very present. But when you are looking for basic social amenities, for example, like issues to do with medicine in the public healthcare system, a public healthcare hospital, you will find that probably the first line of drugs are not in the specific public healthcare hospital in a certain district. So in that kind of conundrum, MPs have found themselves filling the gap. It's a short-term gap. Now, when you have such a situation where you have the state absent when needed most, but present to remind that you are in charge, and then you have, on the other hand, politicians taking advantage of the absence of the state to fill that space and use it for their political capital. Who is to blame in this case? And how do we get out of this? Yes.
I think, either, as I said, it's a software leadership crisis. And I think politicians, the way they are, the money they spend, and saying that the state is absent, so they are covering the space, it is all pseudo. It's all pseudo. Why am I saying it is pseudo? It's because the absence of the state gives them a leverage over those that are not financially strong to further the agenda of them looking to be the savior and the service providers instead of the state. Let me reduce it to our legislature. they are saying the state is absent. But they are the ones who allocate supplementary budgets to the state. They're the ones who invest classified budgets in security. They're the ones who actually cut monies for education and health. They're the ones who donate money to themselves as when they deem fit, and later they argue the state is absent. They're the ones who do not want to hold government officials, more so in the executive, accountable, and later they argue the state is absent. It is just lame excuses. They don't want any responsibility, to take any responsibility. They do not want to admit they have failed, and they want to pass on the burden or the blame onto others. And I don't think that is fair. I think we should own up where we fall short. We should apologize. And if they feel that they cannot do much, resigning is a safer option.
Wow, resigning is a safer option. I'm yet to see that happen. Finally, our guest we've been waiting for, the second guest, Lillian Aber, has joined us. Lillian, you're most welcome. Can you hear us? Yes, I can't hear you, but I think you can hear me. Probably check your microphone settings to make sure that you can hear us. And I understand that you had a crashing program, so I'll try to make sure that I manage your time. About 20 minutes with you, then we should be able to let you go. Can you hear us now very well, Lillian?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Great. You are most welcome.
Yes.
For our viewers, online viewers, we've been joined by Lillian Aber. She also needs not much introduction. I think you've seen her. She's a politician, and I think she served in the same guild with Ivan Bwowe the same year. I think you served with Ivan Bwowe in that guild leadership. 2014,
That's
2016.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That gentleman is my guild president.
Yeah. So these are familiar faces. It's a reunion, I can say. Yeah, but beyond that, she's the chairperson of the National Youth Council. She's also the former president for USA, which is Uganda National Students Association. Are you contesting this time around, Lillian?
I am the NRM flag bearer for Woman MP Kitgum District, the only young person who won with the biggest margin in Uganda.
Wow. I don't introduce that and give you the honors to do so. Yes, she's the NRM flag bearer for Men MP Kitgum 2021 2026.
I can recognize the swag with
You are most welcome,
Yeah.
Dr. Lillian. Really, we are glad to have you. You found us when we had started, and we were discussing why politicians are more predisposed in providing social services as opposed to their cardinal mandates like oversight, representation, and legislation, among others. What's your take?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you well.
I said you found us when we have started the discussions around why politicians are getting more involved in providing social services as opposed to their cardinal mandates like legislation, representation, and oversight. What's your take now that, one, you're a politician, but you are also most likely ending up in the 11th Parliament as the woman MP for Kitgum? Why are we in a situation where politicians take on the role of the state to provide social services?
Well, I will give you the very practical answer to your question.
Yes.
One, politics has been dressed as the most lucrative sort of business venture in Uganda today. Only 10% of those who venture into politics have got what you call the zeal or the interest to serve the people. but rather people look at it as an investment to earn big and earn fast from the pool. So what would a member of parliament do? You have to play the savior role. It's only me who can, pay your children in school. I am the one who can bury all your relatives, even those who got a miscarriage. I am the one who can bring Panadu and give in the hospital. So people have forgotten totally their role and their mandates in parliament. But rather they do a lot of politicking. You're supposed to offer leadership if you're in parliament. And definitely a legislator's role is very clear and stipulated in the constitution. But should you risk going to tell your electorates that, you see, my role is legislation, playing oversight role, working on policies? My friend, they will tell you, okay, go and stay there. We shall vote for the person who can, pay our children in school. So the politicians have been held hostage. We need an overhaul of the entire political or, leadership system that we have today. Putting aside the issue of playing the social roles that the government has to play, there is now another thing called comedy. If you are not comic enough, you must be very rich. You must have some good money in your wallet. However much you speak, however much you roar, at the end of the day, they will ask you, Otulesotia, how have you left us? So the community that we serve today needs to really be enlightened on the role of a politician. But also we, the politicians, must begin doing the right thing. We are to blame. Because if you put it as a point and you say we are going to stick to our mandates and do ABCD, that is now the transformation that is going to begin. Of course, these are not even issues to do with the MPs. These are things that begin even at the presidential level. So you want to act at least like closer to how the president, does mobilization for you to be seen as someone who can represent the people. And I can tell you, for me to have made it, I started doing all those things of attending burials, of contributing to school fees. Today alone, I received 26 missed calls from my voters. They want you to take someone for an operation. They want you to pay someone's school fees because he's going to sit. I mean, this is too much. So we need to really invest time in creating awareness and informing the public to really know and judge legislators or politicians based on their roles. And when they are rating you, they rate you according to, in this sub-county, what did you do? Imagine someone was asking me to build accommodation for teachers. Damn it, where do I get the money from? This is not my role. But I can tell you, I accepted. I said, yes. When I go through, I will definitely look at how I can, provide accommodation for the teachers. But deep inside my heart, I will not be in position to build accommodation for all the teachers in all the sub-counties in Kitgum. But I know that is the government role. I can only put efforts and lobby, then it is done. But how about other sub-counties in other districts? So we really need to change the narrative and ensure that we do the right thing. I'm happy my guild president is there and is also, warming up to go for a member of parliament seat. Probably since we are all on this platform today, we might be the change that we are talking about.
Well, quite interesting. You are raising interesting things, and those are the issues probably that have made contesting for any political position very, very expensive. If you are going to take the path of playing the role of the state, providing social services, you play the role of the state, but also you play the spiritual role, because when you mourn with the people who are mourning, and then you are basically, like you put it, you play the role of a savior. It means that you must have a lot of money to facilitate yourself to get into parliament or to get in a political position, but also stay there, because when you are elected, those demands never stop.
Just 1 minute.
Yes.
I can assure you that both roles can never be played. You can never be a good legislator in parliament, at the same time you be the favorite MP in your constituency. That's why most of the good MPs have lost. It's not because they have not done anything, but it's because they are not dancing to the tune of the Uganda of today. That is why they lose. They have not understood the gist of politicking, because it's totally politicking. They'll start comparing you with someone who can't even speak a sentence in English correctly, but is there barring, and he's spending money every weekend. I mean, this is absolutely unfortunate.
I usually call it a transactional kind of deal. I call it a transactional politics.
Yes. I'm going to come back to you, Ivan. I know Lillian has little time with us. That's why I want to first maximize the time I have with her, then I can let her go. But how did we get here? Because when you talk to the politicians of the old, and we are talking about a period of about 20 years back, we were not in a situation whereby the electorate judge you all relate with you on the basis of how much you've given them, how much you've mourned with them, how much you've supported their social needs and problems. In fact, there have been arguments that the I think was it the 7th Parliament or 6th Parliament did more legislation than the current Parliament. Every cycle of a Parliament becomes more diluted in terms of the quality of legislation, in terms of the quality of representation, in terms of the quality of appropriation. How did we get here? Why are we having such an electorate?
Well, how did we get here? Of course, the world is revolving. The world keeps on changing every day. New things come in, new dynamics, new generation, new style of operation. But generally, people kind of lost trust in the promises being made by the leaders. Today, they are here saying, I'll do ABCD. The other day, they're nowhere to be seen fulfilling what they promised. So the community have decided to say, okay, let's milk them at this time when they're asking for votes, because you may never see them again until election time comes. That's also one problem. Because the whole thing comes from the element of us losing the credibility, the standards of legislation. Who are the people that you really call the parliamentarians? I mean, there must be some sort of quality, but I just don't know what I can even propose as being a sieving, a siever of who should go to parliament. Because you cannot expect to get probably, coconut water. You can't expect to get blood from coconut. Definitely it will be coconut water as white as it is. So if you start now voting for anybody, because the person is maybe more comic, the person is maybe dancing or a singer, okay, now let's take, he makes us happy. There is no quality. The quality of the legislation of leaders has totally eroded. That one I must admit. And unfortunately, we are going to be seeing these things happen. It's not going to stop. Actually, it will even get worse. And now for me, my question is, as a young person, what is my role? What are we going to do? That is my question that I will throw back to everyone watching this. What are you going to do? We don't even want to vote. The turn-ups of people who just go to vote alone. And I have a problem with the so-called elites, those who have too much Luzung, English, and WhatsApp, going on YouTube. They just rant, but they never take trouble to go and guide those who are not even educated. To say, look here, we need to look at these issues. What is the manifesto of this person? Is it focusing on this? And it is upon the manifesto that it should hold me accountable. But someone just keeps there talking, complaining, but they don't even come out to vote. So we have lost it. We have lost trust. We have lost. We don't see any relevance in voting for leaders. First of all, politics is now being seen like it's just it's like a market. Like we are all like scholars in the marketplace. People don't mind about the quality, about what we are looking at. So me and you as a young person must really take trouble to guide the community. We must take trouble to sensitize people. We must take trouble to sieve and get the cream de la cream people who are so-called leaders. You see, for me, I define a leader as that person who knows the way, goes the way with you, and shows you the way. But now if you electing a blind person to go and lead, how? We'll definitely knock. So we really need some sort of quality. We need good mentorship programs that you don't just wake up one morning and you're already a leader. You have no idea about anything, but because maybe your father or your uncle has been the MP, so you have to take over. It's a family, we need some sort of clear mentorship and understanding our country. Where is Uganda from? Where is it now? Where is it heading? What are the things which have not been done well? How can we adjust some of these things? And as a young person, it is my mandate. It's not a favor to speak about this. No one should come to tell you that please talk about this or please. And it's not, when you say talk about this, it's not about shouting or burning tires. It's about coming out like this and spinning out the points and being, Lillian, you are the leader in our generation, but you're doing ABCD wrong. Can you improve? Can you change? Because this is the Uganda we are looking at. Me and you and my guild president, Bwowe here, no doubt, we are going to be, in the next 10 years, we will get there, up there, taking maybe serious leadership positions. That's not by favor, but it's by age.
Wow.
Definitely, that's what will happen.
I'm enjoying this. Yes.
Absolutely, we need to understand who we are. And lastly, I want to caution the young people. Laziness, wishing to have good things without a struggle, you are doomed. Thank you.
Interesting parting shot. Laziness. You've tried to give us solutions to how we get out of this conundrum. Thank you, Lillian. Indeed, just to do a recap, she has talked about, I think the youth now have to raise the bar and provide an alternative kind of leadership, which is far better. I seem to have lost my panelists, probably, but they should be joining. Yes, Ivan is still there. Let's allow, probably, is Lillian coming back? If she's still joining us, that would be great. If she has left,
I'll be following you, but I may not be able to submit, but I'll be following you. When I want to submit, I'll let you know. I'm on the road driving. All right.
I understand. Okay. We thank you for having us, for being with us here today. Please keep following, and as we have this discussion, allow me. Let's have a short break. Then, when I come back, me and Bwowe tussle out the remaining part of the discussions, especially on the issues to do with the transactional nature of our politics, how it is replacing politics of ideas, politics of identity, politics of character. Let's go for a short break for a minute, then we shall come back and also open it up for the viewers to make any contributions in terms of comments.
The monster of money politics is eating up Uganda's democracy. When you take money from a candidate, it means you are feeding the monster. Then you become a part of the problem. When a candidate who overspends on campaigns is elected, he or she will not represent voters but himself. He or she will engage in corruption to recover campaign money. Social services will not be delivered and the voter will suffer more. Voter, let's be wise. Give democracy a chance. Do not sell your vote. Focus on the issue.
Okay, welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us, we are having a very interesting discussion that is also timely in the context within which and where we are as a country. In the studio, I have with me Ivan Bwowe, who is a familiar face to many of you. He's a politician and a lawyer and a researcher and a candidate. He's still holding the cards on making that known. Yeah, and he's a young person. Also, we have Lillian Aber. She has been with us. She's following the discussions. So when it requires, she'll be making her contributions as we move along. But before we took a short break, we were now trying to narrow down the discussions on, especially moving into 2021 elections. And now that officially, I think effective next week, campaigns will be on. What should we expect in terms of the quality of campaign messages in respect to voters' expectation? And of what significance will that kind of message have on electoral outcomes?
Well, I think for when you consider the message, you have to consider first the quality of the person delivering it. It is not in so
if it's a comedian, you know the message will have comedy in it.
Actually, it might be different, but what is the quality of the person? How informed is that person about our socio-economical and our socio-cultural, political, and economic status as a country? If it is an LC5 chairperson, does that person really understand, one, the district is vying to represent, to chair? Does that person understand even how leadership works? Does that person have a history of leadership? Does that person have a track record? Is that person a true representation of the people? So you find to it that usually people, when we say track record, some want to say, we want to maintain the status quo because we've seen them. We are not so certain about what someone new will do. That fear is instant in the political field. But leadership, in my view, is not about a political position. It's like, okay, you've been a teacher. I know, for example, my friend Seungu from Honorable Seungu from Kalungu was a teacher. Yes, was a teacher before he came into parliament. That's where he was offering his leadership. As a businessman, what is your track record? Rafael Magezi, when things were still a little bit better, he was in local government before he came to parliament. What happened thereafter, only history knows. So, I mean, it is important that we have baseline of what we want. Integrity. You know, how are you as a person? As a businessman, have you been defrauding people? And you then want to run for office. So when I talk about a track record, I don't mean I have been LC3, now I want LC5, I've been LC5, now I want MP. No. I mean offering leadership, not holding a political office. So when we look at the message, at times we overemphasize the message, and we abandon the quality of the delivering mouthpiece. So and in my view, the two move hand in hand. And you've had a bay, I mean, clearly. But what I don't agree with is politicians blaming it on the general public. And then when the general public does it, the general public blames it on the politicians.
The blame game.
Yeah, yet to me it's a full cycle. It's a chain. And surely we have gaps. We have gaps. So the message would be important, but we need to concentrate on one, who is delivering it. Two, whether it's actually understood by the audience it is being delivered.
Interesting. The things you're raising, I'm trying to fit the desirable into the and I'm trying to define the current typical voter. Whether marrying the message and the person, in this case, you've defined things to do with character, the elements of integrity, the issues of personality, together with the track record, the ability, and the message being delivered, whether those are the things that move voters to make the decisions they make. Does this matter in our context of Uganda's politics?
I think one other error pundits, political pundits and commentators and politicians do is to underestimate and undermine the intelligence of the Ugandan public. Ugandans know clearly what they don't want. Every Ugandan know that this is wrong, and they usually vent it out. The sole purpose of a leadership, as Aber re-emphasized, is to make sure that we offer leadership. Now, in offering leadership, it does not mean that you take the popular path. At times you have to take the path that is not popular, but provided it is in the best interest of the people. The danger that we have today is that people do not trust politicians.
The mistrust.
The mistrust. And how do we break the mistrust? Is by having sober leaders coming forward, sticking to principles, and giving leadership, offering leadership, giving guidance, not playing by the populism antistics. So when we do that as leaders, then we shall buy back the trust of the people. And to me, I would also ask a question. How do we have that a certain constituency votes a person who is extremely good? You get, they know their roles, they are informed, they give guidance. And another one votes a person who will come and dance and give them 500 for a sachet of salt. So it is not that our Ugandan public is not compatible with quality leaders. It is that we have not presented, either the quality leaders have not presented themselves well, or they have not done enough to actually convince the public. We've had elections whereby people come with
although they have not participated in the yes, they have not offered themselves to contest. Yes.
Yes, and by the way, statistically, most of the elite do not vote. Most of the elites do not vote. Also, they don't want to contest for leadership positions. I have colleagues who have come and say, but Ivan, is it worth standing? And I said, if I don't stand, then someone incompetent is going to come up. And they will win because they've taken the shot. But we also have a tendency, as a population, of not supporting good people. What I mean by support is not just a mere casting of the vote. You get? Today, if Felix, there is a good candidate, and you know they are really good candidates, and they are going to add a brick or two onto the politics and the quality of leadership, and you aim to improve leadership, 1,000 posters would make a difference. 10,000 would make a difference. As little as 10,000, not to bribe voters, but to make sure that that candidate is visible.
Yes.
The challenge is that when we are in our offices that have AC and drive cars with windows up, we think that leadership, one, is not important, or leadership, or what impact does it have on you? But often at times leadership affects us. The quality of leaders that are in parliament today have, I think, about 85% of an influence of what happens to Ugandans and in Uganda generally. Yeah. Leadership is important, so it should not be a by the way issue. It should be a serious concern. It should be a serious concern.
Okay. First, by the way, you can join us in this conversation. Make your comments. If you have questions, raise the questions. You have touched a number of things, but there's one that I want to build on called the mistrust. And probably it answers why Ugandans are not necessarily helping out or trying to help politicians. The office of a politician has now been redefined in the context of Uganda. For example, there are many people who believe that if you're a politician, one, you are not very far off from being a person who can be trusted. You are not very far off from being someone who is into self-seeking. You are not very far off from someone who is looking for quick gains. Because people believe, I think politics is the second highest employer in Uganda after public service. If my statistics are right, I think
yeah, I think so.
I think the after public service is the politicians. It is now an employment. Even we have what we call career politicians. People are abandoning their good jobs to go and run and contest. And some of them, when you talk to them, they will tell you the motivation is mainly the money. To the point that some even have campaign slogans. Even voters, because of the way politics has been postured, even voters know that political candidates come to us when they want us to vote them into office to go and eat. Some of them are bold enough to say, you go and get us what to eat, or let's go and get and we share. So the whole component of serving has been replaced with a component of self-seeking or self-serving. And that's where the bigger part of the problem is in terms of how Ugandans view politicians, how Ugandans view politics, and how they engage in the space. Because when you have such expectations, when you have such a perspective of politics, it also informs on how you will participate in that space. Now, there have been arguments that probably, is it possible that we make this office less lucrative? get out the self-seekers, probably reduce the emoluments, the privileges, the resources that come with the office of a politician. And many people have been quick to point out, especially the office of the MP, that probably that could help to sanitize politics and bring it back to where it's expected to be. What's your take?
When one of the most important thing is to first understand the problem. When your buttocks are itching and you choose to scratch the head, then there is a very big problem. The problem are not the incentives. No, they are not the incentives. The problem is the software leadership crisis we find ourselves in. So, and also probably it is also a misconception to think that it's the money that MPs get that makes it lucrative. Because of our collapsed systems, you find to it that actually people are just office holders and using their offices to do other things. So in short, even if you reduce the incentives and you do not work on the software problem, still people will go into those positions and use those offices to get whatsoever deals they want. You get. So it is not about those incentives. I am one person who has not believed that it's about the problem is the incentives. I actually believe that if we have an accountable leadership, if constituents can recall their MP, it's a better check than the incentive. You get. If at the end of the day, there are more strict rules about debate in Parliament, about attendance in Parliament, and on committees of Parliament, I think that would be much better to do. If there are rules that, for example, if you have been off parliamentary business, you get, you are...
I seem to be losing you.
Can you get me now?
Yeah.
If there are rules and are followed strictly, that if you've not been doing parliamentary business for a year or two, but you've been receiving a benefit as an MP, that you refund that money, that would be a better check. It's not about the incentives. No, it's not. So, I mean, we can think about quite other means of making sure, one, we have debate in Parliament, because at the moment we do not have. Actually, I have sympathized with my colleagues who are good at debate and who would want to debate issues. We come in a Parliament whereby some MPs...
I seem to be losing you, Ivan. I think the connection...
I think it is on your side, because I am on a very strong Wi-Fi connection.
Ivan, are you there? You were still giving us very interesting... how do we deal with the problem beyond... Ivan,
yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
We need to deal with the laws first and foremost, but not only the laws. If we want better policies, we want to decommercialize the politics, then we need to deal with campaign financing laws, because an election is not an event. An election is a process. And every minute detail must be right to have the process right. The product is as good as the process. So at the moment today, I was arguing the other day that if you want campaign financing legislation, there is no way you can actually tell monkeys to burn a forest.
Yes, yes.
They will not burn it. Actually, if possible, they will plot to finish you off. So what you do is to mobilize the population, do everything possible to support good candidates, not to support them to compete with the other ones that are funding or that have money bags out of corruption, as your advert says, out of money laundering, out of trafficking, is to support them to present themselves and to help them reach out to the population. As simple as that. I have a belief that a good candidate is a good candidate.
Yes. Yes.
And people will listen to a good candidate. So that is my other solution to the problem. Because usually good candidates have no financial muscle.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
wow,
those are some of the solutions, I think.
The practical solutions. Yeah. They make a lot of sense indeed. Our time is fast spent. We are remaining with less than 5 minutes, and usually we close this 3 minutes to the top of the hour. So once again, Ivan, thank you for joining us. What are your parting shots as we end this broadcast?
His parting shot is that the public should give particular leaders an opportunity. If we know clearly what we do not want, and you see a person having good views, you give them a shot. You give them a shot and hold those vying for position accountable for what they have achieved or what they have done when they were entrusted with leadership.
Okay,
otherwise,
loud and clear.
Yeah.
Loud and clear. In other words, people should give you, Ivan, a chance to prove that you are a better leader.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, for being part of this discussion. We can continue with this discussion on online platforms. As of now, let's call it a day. Till next Friday. See you then. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.